Hey everybody, welcome back to the channel and welcome back to some more Warpforge. And we have a lot of exciting stuff today. We've got the Order of the Sacred Rose. You can see it right here for the Adeptus Sororitas, the Sisters of Battle. And I can't believe we're seeing a reinforcement for them. I am really excited. This is a faction that really struggled on release, and then through the accumulation of patches, really Junith rose up amongst the praying ranks and became a very top tier deck. And sadly, both Erica and Morphin Ball have really struggled to catch up, though we did see a change with Erica quite recently to add stun to her ability. And there was actually a hotfix for that because there was an issue where that was happening too fast. And then there was also a hotfix for Jane Czar from the Eldar, which so just lots of activity today on the Warpforge, if you will. So today, really what I wanted to do, go over kind of how raids work and how to maybe maximize that a little bit better, especially for new players or just, folks who have not really taken part in raid events. So go over that. We're going to go through each new Sororitas card, give my 2 cents on it. And I will say these things aren't just power level good looking. They're also like aesthetically very, very cool. And it's cool to see like this different order within the faction, because it does have different aesthetics, which is pretty sweet. And then we're going to close things out with just 2, I would say, somewhat budget builds of both Junith and Erica, just so people can kind of like hop onto ladder and have like kind of a rough idea of what might allow them to, get those wins. And we'll talk about why that's important. And like a disclaimer, by no stretch, these builds are the best. I'm missing, I think, at least 2 very key legendaries still for this faction. I've been banking some packs, so I'm hoping we can hit those. But just wanted to do a bit of a raid and reinforcement primer. And this is something I'm hoping to do a little bit more as I kind of figure out certain structured content that I would like to become more of a staple on the channel, so that people can know what to expect instead of me kind of just making random videos here and there. So thanks for the support as always. Let's dive in. Alright, so how does this entire raid event for the Order of the Sacred Rose work? There is the global tally of medals, which is going to unlock these to be accessed as long as, we've got the nifty, pretty nuts, not to spoil too much, new legendary Adelaide at the end here. And I will say, we have never not gotten it, right? This has always hit the last node, so don't worry. I don't think it's going to happen. I also think people are pretty hyped about this reinforcement. Anyway, but the most important thing is your personal tally of medals here at the bottom. You're also going to get missions each day for multiplayer, and I'll explain a little bit more about that. And then you might need to play a few more games here and there to make sure that your own personal track unlocks along with it. So you just want to be kind of paying attention to that. It's easy to manage once you kind of start. You'll definitely get a feel for how many games you have to play. So there are 6 nodes and essentially 6 days, right? It says 7 days. There's usually a bit of a grace period. The important thing, and we're going to do some quick math on that, is each day multiplayer raid event. Get skulls with Sisters of Battle in multiplayer mode. Collect a reward for every milestone you complete. Each day you need to earn 10 skulls, 10 total skulls of Adeptus Sororitas multiplayer. Not draft, not against your friends, not against bots, unranked or ranked. When you do that, you will get 60 medals. So 6 times 6 is 36. So that's 360 medals just doing each day's worth of Sororitas dailies, right? You're also going to have more than that because you get anywhere from 1 to 3 or 1 to 5 medals, I believe, for each game that you play, depending on how many skulls you get in those games. So it's not like you have to jam just playing Sororitas the whole time. It's really just 10 skulls worth each day, right? And so if we hop back over here, 360 medals minimum is what you'll have. You'll probably have somewhere closer to like 400-ish, I think, if you're doing the dailies and maybe a couple other games aside from that. And I think you need to be somewhere in the 400 to 500 medal range to unlock this. It could be a little bit lower. honestly, as it gets unlocked, it's easier to really tell. So sorry, I don't have the exact number in my head. But this will be 300 medals when you unlock it. So as long as you fill in this track, you know, and you do every single daily, you're going to be able to purchase this for free from the medals you earned playing the daily event and playing some extra multiplayer games. That's 300. The rares, I believe, end up being 75, 50 to 75, so you can probably snag it. Honestly, with Emperor's Judgment, I would probably only snag one. And I'll talk about later why I think that. And then Priest, I think, is anywhere from like 25 to 50, so you could snag both of those usually. So usually I come away with like the legendary, one or two of the rares, usually all of the commons. If you want any cosmetics, obviously the math changes a little bit. And then I think usually I'll have like the ability to purchase like maybe one or two copies of the common, maybe a copy of, you know, a rare if I put in enough games. But at minimum, if you're just doing the bare minimum for these missions, sorry, I was like have to switch tabs, then you'll have enough for the legendary plus a few other goodies. And as a free-to-play player, I think that's pretty good. I think that's generally healthy for the game. You get the brand spanking new legendary, you get a couple other kind of like discounted freebies in a way. And then, you know, we'll get into the other tabs and kind of decide what you want to do from there. Obviously, if this is more your jam, right, here you go. You just got to spend medals on this. You probably won't see these cosmetics ever again, so that's kind of the incentive to do it. Pretty cool card back. I'm not a huge cosmetics person. I just want to play with the new cards and stuff like that. But I know some people really, really love this stuff, and it's usually pretty well done. Okay, and then offers, right? So there's a gold bar offering for 500 medals, and then there's the premium rate offer. So here's what I would say. If you know that you can feasibly play, and I'm going to put this out like tonight so people can get this, every single day of this raid, and like to a pretty decent degree, then the premium rate offer is definitely going to be worth it for you. It is still $20 to get 1,500 medals, which will just buy you outright the new Warlord if you do want that. And then 150% medals for mission. It also helps the global thing, but I'm not going to talk about that because that's your personal choice. So basically what I would say is I would not entertain the premium rate offer unless you know you're going to be able to play every single day for the next 6 days. If you're not able to do this, I just don't think this is going to be worth your time and money. But if you want to buy into and just play with all of the new cards literally as soon as they hit, I usually wait a week after the raid, you know, basically a week later from when the raid is done. I've opened packs and all of that. That just tends to be my style. That's kind of how I would treat this. And then let's say like you miss a day or two, and you really want to make sure you get, you know, as much bang for your buck without paying too much. 500 medals off of 1,000 gold. Honestly, I forget what the conversion is. So 1,000 gold is roughly $10, right? So that's what you're paying $10 to get 500 medals, and you're paying $20 to get 1,500 medals plus a higher percentage, 150% of your medals that you get for each game. So I think this makes way less sense unless like really in a pinch you can only, you know, and understandably afford $10 and you really want to make sure you get the legendary and you couldn't grind medals, then I guess, or if you've just got this gold left over from forges, so like I don't have much, then I guess go for this. But I would say like either free to play this and just make sure you grind it out, or pay into it, but probably the raid offer is going to be the best thing for you. And then anything extra you're going to get will turn into crystals. So that's just the broad strokes and kind of my thought process for the raid events. Some people like them, some people don't. I generally think it's better for free-to-play players, and it's a little annoying and maybe not as optimized for you know, people who are going to put money in, because like sometimes it doesn't feel worth it, or you have to like wait to really play with the content. There's a lot of understandable critiques, but generally I've come more and more around to the raid events over time, especially for kind of newer and free-to-play players. So that's just my 2 cents. Okay, let's get into the cards. I'm excited to talk about this. And you know what? Why don't we... no, we'll end with the legendary deck. Just to kick it off really quick, and I'll try and keep this moving so this video is not so long. New Warlord Celestian Sacrosanct Aveline or Aveline. Aveline, are you listening? I think this is you. Very similar name, not the same spelling though. Okay, so 35 health, pray, give +1 melee and +1 range to a friendly troop. I will say when I first saw this, I was like, really? We got another buff thing? But then I was like, no, but it's pray. It's not like more invincibility, which you have to pay for. But it does say friendly troop. So the impression I get, I guess we'll get confirmation sooner, this will not let you pray without a troop on the board. Or it lets you pray, but obviously there's no effect. There's an important piece to that, right? Because maybe I don't want to attack and I want to pray. So, but I don't have something on the board. So, you know, that's sort of a little weird, but I think generally, you know, you're going to play troops. You're going to play maybe more a tempo style with this build. And I think there are a lot of reasons why you might want to do that with the new cards. So I think this is probably, you know, reasonably statted and probably will be just fine. But what is her ability? 2 energy, Demon Breaker, really cool art. Give +1 melee, blast 1, and shield to your warlord until your next turn. So it's a full turn cycle, right? This is what they've done to adapt some of the least impactful combat abilities, is give you it on your turn and your opponent's turn. So that generally catches my attention. Shield, certainly for 1, is a really nice one. Blast 1 honestly can help out quite a bit, mopping up the board, and then only 1 melee, so they're not giving you on the range, so it's a little bit restricted. But looky here, at 8 faith, right? So 2, you know, relics of St. Catherine, give it permanently. So is that I don't imagine that you can have permanent shield on your warlord, right? The shield will just be on. I guess it stacks, right? And so shields don't stack, to my knowledge, in this game. I don't think that's ever happened. So the shield will come off. I think that piece doesn't stack, but I think she'll keep stacking her melee, and then the blast 1. I'm not exactly sure how that works. And so essentially, I think the design in this is great. You've gotten to your 8 faith breakpoint. Great. You just use Demon Breaker 1 more time. Now you don't have to keep paying into it. I think that is the intention. We'll sort of see how it actually plays out. And, you know, let me know in the comments. I'm sure I'm getting some of these rules ideas wrong. So I'd be interested to see what people think. But on its face, I imagine that this is a relatively strong warlord. It is based around tempo. Junith has always been the best because once she gets rolling, she's just so hard to consistently stop. I think you'll have probably an easier time against the Celestian Sacrosanct Aveline. I just think that this plays more of like the old, you know, the classic style of Warpforge, where you put something down, buff it, and then you can make your leader kind of strong. This honestly appeals to me a lot. I think I will probably pick her up and play her quite a bit. So we'll see. We'll see. I feel like I spent an hour talking about her. Okay, the Sororitas Rhino. I saw this and I was so hype. I wanted to see Sisters of Battle Tanks. So here it is in all its glory. Love the Rhino. 4 energy, 2/3/5. So very similar to the Impulsor stats. When a friendly unit prays, deploy a Sacred Rose Sister. So praying, obviously, that's your warlord can do that. So essentially, you're always going to think, I'm going to get at least 1 Sacred Rose Sister out of this, as long as your warlord's not stunned, because that will stop you from praying. And here's the Sacred Rose Sister. So a little bit of a different take on the Battle Sister, right? 1, 2, 3, so same stats, but it has multiple faith breakpoints. 1 faith, gain +1 melee, +1 ranged. 3 faith, gain +1 health, because there is no healing on this card, which the Sisters of Battle unit does have. It also has Pray itself, which is gain a shield, and as most people will know, shield and invulnerable are some of the most game-stopping mechanics for Sisters of Battle. It buys time, it accumulates their value, it overwhelms your opponent's boards. So I assume any card that is giving me some Sacred Rose Sisters, and I have a reasonable time getting some faith, is going to be a problem for my opponent. So For 4 energy, most of the time, you're going to get 5 health, plus another 3 health, plus likely, I would say, another 2 melee, 3 ranged in stats on top of this. So Sororitas Rhino, not hitting very hard, but giving you 8 health of units on 4 energy, that can potentially repeat itself, right? So I just have to imagine this card is going to be great. It could even go off. And old Impulsor at times, if you codexed with Tactical Insight, the old Tactical Insight, it really could be quite incredible. It could just outright win you the game sometimes. I feel like Sororitas Rhino isn't maybe quite there because we don't have a Tactical Insight enabler like that. There's not a lot of units that can flank and pray. That's not really a thing. But this is just great value, and I think probably I just feel like any deck is going to be happy to run this. So yeah, I'm excited to see it. All right, moving on. Sacred Rose, 4 energy, and it is important to think about 4 energy and 6 energy because those are some of the best slots in Sororitas decks. So there is going to be some competition, and we'll see kind of how that shakes out. Deploy 2 Sacred Rose Sisters. We just looked at those awesome grenade tossing sisters. But if you have 3 faith, give them flank. So that's going to be pretty nice because if you do have the 3 faith, that means that they're going to come in as 2 3/4s with flank, and you're going to get 2 of them for 4 energy. And it potentially, you know, if they're able to trade a little bit and maybe you've got 1 left over, great. Now you get to pray next turn and shield it, which is a huge problem. So I think that Sacred Rose is going to be pretty solid. I don't think it's as good as the tank. Well, I guess it can be better than the tank in some scenarios, but yeah, I'm not like blown away by Sacred Rose, but I just imagine flank is generally just really important to have. This is relatively cheap, and 3 faith might be a little harder to come by 4 energy, but this is just kind of like a decent value card, and so I'm not so sold that it's going to be like all that important. I think the Rhino is a little bit more important on its face, but I could see how this will also be problematic in certain matchups and if you're really snowballing pretty early. And then there's, honestly, this is one of my favorite cards, the Armorium Cherub, which are really creepy. 1 energy, 1/02, so it's just like pretty weird stats. Flying, rally ability, give +2 ranged to a friendly unit this turn. At the start of your turn, return this, I assume, to your hand. Or at the start of your turn, return to your hand. Oh, maybe it also means that unit? I'm actually not sure what the return to your hand is referring to. Maybe it is the friendly unit. So you can give it, at worst, right? You can give this to your Warlord for 1 energy to give your Warlord +2 ranged. But basically you can tack this on to other flankers, right? I think that's kind of the intention. And then potentially that unit will come back to your hand. That makes way more sense because when I was reading this originally, this coming back to your hand is like not likely to happen. It's got 2 health, it's going to die. So this is interesting. You can maybe like, I don't know, take advantage of shield or flank, or I'm not really sure, but this kind of seems like a cool little design. What it reminds me of course, my cat is here to say hello, is the familiar from the Gene Stealers. Obviously a lot different, but kind of a similar cheap, you know, little buff, little combat stat design. So, and then Sacred Rose Sister, not much to say. Obviously one of the staple units. We have the Castigator coming in. I was hoping we were going to see it. I actually listened to a podcast talking about this tank. And this is essentially, for those who remember from the PTSD that you've likely had from the Predator Annihilator, this is the same exact stats of the original Annihilator. However, and the ability is similar, but it says when a friendly unit prays, deal 2 damage to a random enemy. So this is definitely less powerful than deal damage to the highest power on board, because highest power, it's same in Magic. It's like whenever it said sacrifice a random creature that has the highest power. Obviously, highest power is usually going to be the biggest threat. This does not do that. And so it is quite a bit weaker in terms of like the Codex, or in this case, the Prey trigger. But it can trigger multiple times. And it's just a well-statted unit. You're going to play it on 7. I think this plays really well, probably with most decks, but especially like more of a tempo aggro style. Potentially Morven could take advantage of this with her large health pool. And then you just get like this really, really solid value, during future turns. It's tanky. See what I did there? And it's going to be hard to kill. So I just imagine Castigator is going to make it into most rosters. There aren't, besides St. Celestine on 7 energy, there's not a ton of competition for the slot since Mortifier got nerfed. I think we're going to see the return of the tanks. And this time, instead of the Annihilator, we're going to see the Castigator, which is a sick name, by the way, in my categories, apparently. Okay. Moving on, Zephyrim Superior. We saw the Zephyrim on 6 energy. This is a 5 energy flanker, flying flank, and it's got a prey ability, draw a troop. I think this is probably going to make the cut. Again, this plays really well into more of like the nuts and bolts Warpforge gameplay, where you're able to kind of answer threats and then eventually stick something. This really does shore up some of the weaker slots, toward the earlier game for Sisters of Battle, right? And training this off at 5 energy for their unit is going to be helpful if it sticks around and somehow is guarded or something like that. Then you're going to start drawing troops. I just think this is fine. 4/4, 5 energy, 5 health. I think it'll be a role player in most decks. We'll see, though. There's going to be a lot of competition for different slots, but the 5 slot has Astrid. It has, like Dominion Superior, some of these other utility 5 drops, but I think Zephyrim Superior in a vacuum is generally pretty nice for what, the late game potential of Sisters of Battle. So we'll see. And then not last and not least, because we will look at the other cards in the raid meter. Devout Serenity, 5 energy stratagem. Give shield to your units. Each friendly unit that is praying heals 3. So this is like a bigger conviction of faith, because you're getting the heal, but you're not getting armor, and you are getting shield. Not sure about this. 5 energy is a bit hefty, but this is also shielding a faction that really benefits from shielding and healing. Anything that pushes things into the late game, Sororitas have most everyone beat in that category. So this does play well generally with their strategies. I'm not sold that this is good enough. I mean, maybe people can come for me in the comments. I just think it's a little costly. It's a pretty large tempo loss, obviously. This feels like more of a Junith card, maybe as a one-of, right? Because you're getting multiple units and things of that nature. But I would say this is definitely the least exciting card that we've looked at so far. So to round it all out, we also have another common in the Ministorum Priest, and let me tell you, I'm happy to see this. 3 energy, 3/3, 4 health, just good stats. And it's got a prey ability, give +3 melee to a friendly unit this turn. That could be your warlord, maybe it can be a flanker. Plays well, certainly with flankers if it lives. This is a 3-drop, finally, that Sisters of Battle can play and not be embarrassed about. So I think that's, we were looking for something like this for quite a while. Looking at you, Death Cult Assassin, which has just made us all sad forever. Yeah, I mean, put the priest in your deck. He's got a cool little beard and sick priest's hat going on. I think that, and a pretty scary mace. Yeah, I think this card's great. And I think that this really is just going to give Sororitas even better staying power in the early game, which is a little scary. So we'll see how that all pans out. Emperor's Judgment, 9 energy, rare. Destroy an enemy troop. So you can target that. Refill energy equal to your faith. I think it'd be crazy if we saw 2 of these in someone's deck, but I do think that 1 is reasonable, especially for Junith, because the game, you want the game to go late. Having a non-conditional removal spell that then allows you to play something else afterward, because I imagine you will, is a pretty nice tempo swing. Also, they have always struggled with targeted with any sort of removal outside of the flame card, and obviously outside of the legendary. So I think Emperor's Judgment will probably make it as a one of in most, like, definitely late game builds. I don't really see this in Erica. I don't really see this in the new Warlord, to be frank. I think this is kind of a Junith card to me, but I could be wrong. Maybe most, if not all, decks will want it, but I'd be a little surprised by that. Last, but absolutely not least, we've got Adelaide the Serene, 6 energy, 6 health, 7/5. We got the Nork treatment on the stats here. Shield, flying. Everybody put your reading glasses on. So shield, flying. Okay. Shield, flying unit. 6 faith, gain flank. Okay, now it's got flank at 6 faith, which is obviously harder to hit, right? Like, getting 1 faith in the early game and then using relics, 4 and 5 are always on the table. 6 might take a little bit more work. So I wouldn't play this card being like, oh great, I've got a 6 energy flanker, because I don't think that's what's going to happen. But you're probably not going to play this on curve. You'll probably play this a little bit later, so that's excellent. It also has a rally ability. If you have less than 6 faith, gain 1 faith for each enemy unit. So baseline, it will give you a faith because unit is your opponent's opposing warlord. This is an effect that Aveline has talked about forever. That Stradivarius has talked about. I definitely brought it up in earlier videos, that if what would help Sororitas feel less coin flip and less like all or nothing, like either Junith is destroying you or you can't even get anything going, is having more progressive faith abilities, right? And this idea that if you don't have a faith breakpoint, a card still gets you closer to that faith breakpoint, and it's not just all or nothing. So this is really interesting. It'll also do really well into specific matchups that want to go wide, because you'll just get a huge bang for your buck on 6 energy. And this is really relevant at 6 energy and getting this faith ability, right? Because this could actually, potentially bring you from 5 to 8, which 8 is a very important breakpoint with the 5 energy, divine intervention spell. So Adelaide just is doing a million things all at once that you all want. So I'm happy to see a little bit more innovation with the idea of how faith is accumulated. I really think that would solve a lot of problems that the sisters have had since the beginning. And so Adelaide is insane. Love the flame bolter here, the flamer pistol, and this like crazy bat with something like, I don't know, some wire on it or whatever's going on here. So I would say, like, especially if you're a free to play player, save your medals, get Adelaide. This will be a staple in every single Sororitas deck. So to close out just this section of the video before we move on to the decks, yeah, and I mean, I just think that this reinforcement seems to be pretty high power. I love the aesthetics. I mean, just to gush over a little bit, the white, especially the rhino. Oh my god, it just looks so cool. And the castigator, I just love it. Even the little cherub is just a cool design, and I dig that. So yeah, I think just to close out the section about the raid, exciting stuff. Hope the tips have helped. And really in this last section, we've gone over the cards. Again, I think they're going to be pretty strong. I think that sisters are definitely going to maybe bring, the new warlord into the fold, into the higher tier. Maybe Erica also makes it there. Morven, still not so sure. I think there's more of a question mark there. And that's why, although I could have done 3 decks, I'm really just going to show 2. Junith, not going to say much here. You guys can just take a look at the list. I am missing legendaries, so again, take this with a grain of salt. If you're an Adeptus Sororitas player, you don't need my advice here. Through every card, I think everyone's very familiar with these by now, but you can't really go wrong, just trying to like set up your early game, hopefully hit a Relics of St. Catherine, and then just kind of go off to the races from there. And if you've got all of the legendaries for the sisters, you're going to be just fine. if you do something roughly in this wheelhouse, you're going to be totally fine. So that's Judith. But I did have a lot of requests about Erica. I am no Erica expert. I haven't even really gotten to play her that much since the patch, but I have seen, I played against her quite a lot. And I think that this deck is totally fine. It's not a super go late build. It's definitely more mid-range, I would say, just because kind of my collection where it's at, like, sort of suited this better. But yeah, you're playing more tempo. You're gonna struggle more because you just don't have the staying power that Judith has. But if you do hit that 5 Wraith breakpoint and you start stunning something and dealing damage to it every single turn while playing potentially cheap removal, some sort of cheaper threats, playing your legendaries, whenever you can, and using flankers to kind of stay in the game. And I think that's going to be the biggest thing, is trying to stay alive until you can really take over the game. I think Erica has some real power, and like I said, played Swarmlord into it, played some other combat-based warlords into it, and she can be quite scary. And I think she's going to probably be much more of a real threat with the new cards. So if you happen to pay in and you've got the Rhinos and the Castigator and stuff like that, I would just give that a shot in some of these slots. So I hope this is helpful. I know, I can't offer too much experience with Adeptus Sororitas. I haven't played them a ton, but I know the decks. I know the players roughly. So I think that hopefully this is sort of a helpful segment on how to, tackle the raid, and also kind of how to look at the reinforcement. Are these cards going to be good? Should you be getting them? How are they going to show up in the meta? I'm sure it's day one, so I'm not going to offer all of my input, but to close it out here, the reinforcement seems strong to me, and that is concerning because Judith was already really strong. So just going to get stronger, and I would say the only benefit, if out of anything, is to bring more warlords into the top tier, and I'm most interested in the new warlord playing that kind of style. It does appeal to me as more of an aggro player. I think raid is here. Hopefully we can all take as much of advantage of it, and then I hope just going over those last 2 decks was helpful, just to get a little bit of a sense. But let me know what you think in the comments, and I'm excited to get into this myself and get some of these medals tonight. So thanks for the support as always, and I'll catch you guys next time.